And I am so thrilled to be here with Pulitzer Prize and Grawemeyer Award-winning composer, John Adams. He's a fabulous conductor and composer of opera, oratorios, orchestral music, chamber music, everything. And this year is the 75th anniversary, and he is our music director. Thank you, John, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be back in Ojai?
Oh, it's just terrific. And I have to say, I haven't heard so much good music in one weekend in a very long time. It's just amazing how this younger generation of composers has just kind of taken flight, and there's just an amazing blossoming of ideas that is permeating the festival.
It's totally thrilling and infectious. I mean, I think, you know, the Ojai Festival is always fabulous, and then you add that none of us have been to a music festival for 18 months, and there's just this extra special little joy that's here. I think we're all feeling it. Now, you were also the music director in 1993. Mm-hmm. And so what's different between 93 and now?
Well, I think one of the things I wanted to emphasize in this festival is the freedom that young composers, that's a new ecology. You know, when I was in my 20s, it was really pretty grim. You know, it was the days of music that was very cerebral, much of it, you know, aggressively atonal. And I mean, there was some great music then, but that was 30 years ago. Actually, it was 50 years ago when I was in school. And I would say when I was here in the early 90s, we were sort of in a transition period. Now, I think a lot of young composers are very socially conscious. There we have quite a few pieces that in one way or another address social justice, and then just in terms of the feel of the music and the sound of the music, what's extraordinary for me is this sense of freedom and a return to beauty. That sounds sort of, you know, paradoxical to be able to say that, but I'm always reminded of a great quote from Lou Harrison, sort of paterfamilias of California composers, and he said, "We here on the West Coast are not afraid to be pretty."
I love that. That's great. And actually, that kind of like feeds right into Dylan Mattingly's piece, which will be premiered tonight, where, you know, one of the words that I think Dylan uses the most to describe his music is ecstatic. And, you know, as a Bay Area composer, and even the microtonality that we're going to hear tonight, that comes right out of Lou Harrison, right? And I wonder if you could describe a little bit of Dylan's music and what first invested you in his music.
Well, I've known, actually I've known three of these young composers since they were, you know, very young. Dylan is from Berkeley, my hometown. He, you know, the word maverick is thrown around a lot these days. But I think he really genuinely is in the maverick tradition of American composers, and I associate him in my mind with people like Harry Partch and Conlon Nancarrow. In terms of a sonic world, I might even call it a harmonic ecology. You can quote me on that. That is absolutely unique and original. And this piece, I asked Dylan to do it. I just had a feeling that if he had two harps and two grand pianos, and he could work his extraordinary fine tuning where, you know, the instruments are tuned according to certain Pythagorean ratios. It creates a kind of a shimmer that, together with Dylan's fantastic rhythmic dancing imagination, it truly is ecstatic music.
I'm so excited to hear it. And so did you come up with the instrumentation, or did Dylan come up with that?
You know, I think I did.
That's amazing.
And
I love it.
He said, "Sounds good."
He took the challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I also think that talking about shimmering, we have to talk a little bit about Hallelujah Junction. This is one of my favorite pieces. I'm in a piano duo. I love this piece. It's one of the backbones, I think, of modern repertoire for that duo. What inspired that piece?
Well, Hallelujah Junction is actually a little tiny spot on the California-Nevada border, up in the high Sierras, and I've had a cabin up there for many years.
Cool.
And when I first drove by this place, I said to myself, "That is a great title that just needs a piece to go with it." So I wrote the piece. It was originally performed, the premiere, by two very close friends of mine, Gloria Cheng and Grant Gershon.
Oh, amazing.
And since then, you know, it's, as you say, it's been very popular. It was even, I think, the first music you hear in the Luca Guadagnini's film, Call Me By Your Name. And I liked the title so much, I named my autobiography Hallelujah Junction as well.
So it needed a piece and a memoir.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I have to say, when I watched Call Me By Your Name for the first time, I immediately just shot up in my seat and I was like, I know this. It was really exciting. So if the piece was premiered by Grant Gershon and Gloria Cheng, who are two fabulous LA musicians, you have two other fabulous LA pianists up there, Joanne Pierce-Martin and Vicki Ray, performing it today. What's your relationship with the LA Phil New Music Group? We know you're the creative chair of the LA Phil, but I also know you go way back with Joanne and Vicki. You
know, I think my first experience with the LA Phil was in the early 80s, when a piece of mine was read on a composer's workshop. And since then, I've had a very long history with the orchestra. I love the orchestra. I love their mission, the players themselves. I've conducted many, many premieres with them. And Joanne and Vicki, they're just amazing musicians, and they're technical monsters. They can play just about anything. Absolutely. So I think this is going to be a historic performance this afternoon. I know that sounds grandiose, but I just know that they understand my music, and they got the groove. Absolutely. I mean, it's so clear. You know, I know they love your music, and they just celebrate whenever they get to collaborate with you and work with you. You know, it's so cool. I think something we all respect so much is just how you have your thumb on the pulse of the next generation of new music. And, you know, we also saw this through the Ojai Festival Orchestra, which is a brand new thing for this year. How did that concept come about? Well, you know, it's the 75th anniversary, and the question was, what do we do? Do we look back over the festival's extraordinary history, which would have been interesting, but I just wanted to look to the future. And I have been working all over this country and in Europe with younger musicians. And, you know, I can't tell you what a thrill to work with a group of people who've grown up listening to you know, Bach and hip hop and jazz and folk music, and they're so informed in a kind of you know, almost muscular way. So their sense of rhythm and their sense of style is just something that you don't get with an orchestra of 50 or 60-year-olds. Sure. So we had this hand-picked orchestra, a large majority of whom were from Los Angeles area. And I got to say that, you know, Los Angeles is now producing some of the most astonishing young musicians in the country. Wow. Wow, that's so exciting. And it was, I mean, I'm from LA, and, you know, seeing so many of my colleagues up there was just really thrilling. And, you know, I think it was so great, especially, again, after we all haven't been playing together for a year and a half, to see that celebrated. And with, you know, a young orchestra, it was really, really thrilling. Yeah, I mean, I just think this whole festival has been exciting. And then the Attacca Quartet was absolutely fabulous. I mean, they know, it sounds like they know your music backwards and forwards, too. And you wrote your first string quartet for the Attacca Quartet, right? I actually wrote it for the St. Lawrence Quartet, who are based at Stanford. But the Attacca Quartet picked up my my string quartet music, and they made an album of everything I'd written up to that point. And I've also done I have a piece that's based on little fragments of Beethoven scherzos with string quartet and orchestra called Absolute Jest.
Right.
And I've performed that with the Attacca in Europe and elsewhere.
Wow.
They are really at the top of my list of young performers, and I should be careful what I say, but I'll say it anyway. I really am going to write a third quartet for them.
Oh boy, oh that's so exciting. I'll be in the front row.
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well,
it's such a pleasure, and
Yeah.
it's been just a fabulous festival, and I can't wait for today's concert and tonight's
Me
concert.
too. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yes, yes.